This video covers the very lengthy, difficult resurrection of a Philco T66 and a Zenith Royal 80 pocket transistor radio. These were some of the most challenging, tough ones I've run across. Let me say, I'm not here to solicit repairs. That's not what this channel is primarily about. This channel is primarily about the diagnostic experience and as reference material for others who enjoy this hobby. I do take some outside repairs. It's not really something I'm looking for. I don't mind doing it, but the shipping side of it is a big pain in the ass. And when I have to rebox it up and drive to the post office and wait in line, the minute that process starts, the $150 an hour labor rate kicks in. So with that said, that's where I'm kind of at with outside repairs. Anyway, let's dig into these radios. We'll start with the Philco first. These were some tough ones. Let's start with this Philco. It's not in great shape, but it seems to be rare. I couldn't even find a schematic or any listing of this model number online or in the Sam's book or any of the other books. This is a T66-124, and I have a feeling the circuit's a lot like a Zenith, where it uses the center tapped batteries with the balanced transistor output and a single interstage transformer. The antenna is broken on this one, so we'll have to try and fix that. You see someone tried to solder it in there. They got a bunch of solder on that transistor. So we should be able to figure this out. That pin should connect to the converter. That should be ground, and the other should connect to the variable tuning capacitor. The banana slicer. Love these Philco transistors. These are this can style, these gold ones. These are made by Philco. This is where it gets a little bit complex. The speaker is disconnected, and I see traces missing off the board here. See that? So we got a bunch of sloppy work here, which is kind of depressing. I'd like to see this one work again. I don't know, it's just cool because it's American made, and I like American stuff. I'm ohming the antenna out, and there should be a big coil and a small coil, and the big coil is open, so I'm looking at it with a high-powered magnifying glass, trying to figure out what's going on here. This was botched. Okay, I figured the bigger coil out. It was broken at the end here. Got the antenna all fixed up. Now I'm working on trying to clean this up, and I don't know what this guy soldered this thing with. A Weller soldering gun or something. I mean, this is, all the traces are missing. I really need a schematic for this if I'm going to get this to work. And I really dig this little radio, and we don't even know if there are any transistors or anything that are bad. It's just all malleolated. Okay, I fixed the broken trace there, and I got the antenna bodged in there, and I got, I looked at another schematic for a different radio, which is mostly the same, and I got the speaker wire connected where I believe it goes. Totally dead, and I'm tuning across the band listening for the oscillator in this radio. I'm not getting it, so I don't think the converter's running. I'm looking at this area that I fixed here, and it looks like this trace actually continued over to here. Like I need to rebuild from here to here to here. That's a converter transistor that has a solder blob. I hope that transistor is not dead. So let me fix this. I found a solder bridge here And I don't even know if this black wire is supposed to be here. No, still no worky. No oscillator running. With all the bodge work on this, I wonder if this transistor is installed correctly. I got a schematic here for a T64. And this is a T66. But this looks sort of close. Well, it looks like the problem the oscillator coil is open, because if it's the same circuit, we have 1.9 volts here and 0 volts here. So if I look at this point here, which is the emitter of this transistor, we have 1.9 volts there. If I come over to here, which is, we have 0. So that coil is open. No wonder why the oscillator is not running. This is not the first time I've seen these oscillator coils go open. I was fighting with this Sony mantle radio, and I haven't done a part 2 or whatever on that yet. And it turned out one of the antenna windings was open on the oscillator coil. And I replaced it with one of the modern red slug ones, Chino ones, and it woke right up. But yeah, these things, a high failure rate for some reason. I'm going to take it off and see if we could see the break. Okay, I think we got lucky here. The wire was broken. See it right there, the little hair. It's broken right at the pin, so I'm going to fix that. Okay, I fixed it. Just use a strand of wire. It's one of those things where I wonder at what point am I going to turn it on and it's going to work, you know? Guess not this point. Okay, my voltages look good, but still not hearing the oscillator here. So I wonder if that transistor is bad or put in there right. That's about what I would expect. We could stick this in a different radio and see what happened. I don't think it's a transistor, but I'm going to pop this one in there. Okay, it appears it is working. I had to put this on the very low end of the band. So the oscillator is running. Okay, next issue, the volume control is wide open. It only makes continuity when it's turned all the way down. I bypassed the volume control. I tried spraying it. No dice. Remember, these two were jumped. But it's not tuning. Got the signal tracer on it. I know it's junk now, but I'd like to see it work. And I'm getting, this is the first IF transformer. So I'm getting a signal, but I'm not getting anything out of the first IF transistor. Let me pull it out and see if it clinko-torculates. Okay, again, the first IF tests good. I don't know if it is or not, but it's not open. Well, this is a tough one. I put that resistor in a 15K because the pot is open. And even though I got the pot bypassed, I want to make sure it didn't rely on that for bias. I have signal going into the first IF, but nothing coming out. The transistor's good. The bias is good. The voltage is good. I am stumped. You know, this is the toughest one I've ever worked on. I've been playing with this for the better part of 5-6 hours, and it's just kicking my ass. I think I've discovered the problem is in the second IF transformer. If I flex the board, it goes open and closed. Seems okay out here. Okay, sort of resurrected. I've spent more time on this than anything ever. So there was a capacitor missing, and without the electrolytic capacitor, it motorboats. I think the converter transistor is bad, but now the problem I got, that's looking at the local oscillator. That's tuning up. So now I'm way above the AM band. Now the oscillator just stalls out right there. Like, it tunes in the top 3 or 4 stations on the AM broadcast band, and then the oscillator stalls out. Okay, the Philco transistor won't run at all now. Here's Disco Saturday Night. I don't think the tuning capacitor is working right, because adjusting it doesn't make any difference in the sensitivity. You can usually adjust the trimmer, adjust the oscillator, and move it around. It's making no difference. Yeah, disconnecting the antenna does absolutely nothing. Nothing. Okay, I finally found a schematic for this. This is a 1960 model year. I don't know why I was thinking it's a 66. So here's what I've done wrong. Well, what a cluster. Anyway, this capacitor was missing right here. And it says, interesting, it's cut out, I can show you. And interesting, it says in the service notes, if C9 is open, serious audio oscillation will result. Well, you know, this is the most modified. This is like one of those radios they give you for electronics school graduation, where they take some part out of it and screw a bunch of stuff up and you have to straighten it out. Anyway, the antenna I connected, because I had to unwind it, I connected this coil to here. So I got the center tap down, down here, not in the middle. So that's why it's all jacked up. That's probably why the oscillator won't run. Look at this thing. Okay, day number 2. What a pain in the ass. And it's just more about winning the war and conquering the enemy than it is actually having a cool radio. Well, that too, but I mean, this thing is wow. So let's go over everything so far. The antenna was all jacked up. The solder joints were all jacked up and missing, and traces removed, and solder bridges everywhere. There's a missing capacitor. I could show you that. See that lead that's cut off right there in the very bottom corner? That goes to another capacitor that lays on top of that axial lead capacitor and goes over, extends over by this IF can with the white core. The volume control is open. There's something going on probably inside one of those 2 IF cans. I've got that screw wedged in there to overcome that problem. I believe the converter transistor, the gold one there, might be bad, but it's hard to tell because the oscillator is still not working right. We had an open in the oscillator coil here, the red one. Here's what I dug up with to play with today. I've got a bar antenna, I'm not sure if this is the right specs. We'll try it. I got an oscillator coil. I believe that's a transistor oscillator coil, and I got a pot for the volume control. The pot that's in here is 15K. This is about 26K. I was thinking that I might be able to put this pot in place of that connector there. So I was thinking that pot might fit in place of the earphone jack, but that comes later. I installed the new antenna and it performs about exactly the same as the old one. And I was looking at this, and the problem is that, you know, KNX is coming in around 690 on the AM dial, which KNX is 1070. So I was looking at, you know, why is the oscillator running so fast? And we know that the oscillator coil was open. Well, I started looking at this, and the freaking core is missing out of the oscillator. The core is missing. This guy took the core out. Okay, I got a core. I took it out of this TV board.
It was put back in place, but the uncomfortability of that experience. All right, Steve Frank, what is the website for Seeing Eye? News and traffic.
Okay, I got
KNX 1070 News Radio. Depend on us. 944, I'm Rob Barnes.
I got it up around where it should be. Now maybe I can adjust the trimmer and get somewhere with the antenna tuning. Good, now I can achieve a peak with the antenna trimmer. Now it's working. And I'm getting LA oldies. Ooh, happiness. And now that I don't know how I missed that the slug was missing out of that core. I just, whatever. Now that that's fixed, I got my transistor out, I got the original Philco transistor back in, and it's working right. It tested good, it was just, I don't know. Converters are weird like that, but if the circuit's good, oh, and I put the original antenna back. Listen to LA Oldies now.
You check your phone, what, 30 times a day? Because
I am winning. I am winning. I am kicking this thing's ass today. Only got about 12 hours into it. I got the missing capacitor replaced. I believe I found the problem. It was not an IF can with an intermittent inside. It was a cracked solder trace. All I got to do now is just get rid of that, put that volume control in there. Check this out. The pot and the headphone jack take the same size nut. Our new volume control is installed.
Presumptive frontrunner. Trump interviewed her for the last vacancy. Religious conservative, a favorite of religious conservatives, strongly anti-abortion. She had a tough appellate court hearing, but she stood strong, which conservatives like.
The latest CBS News Battleground Tracker poll shows the presidential race is getting closer, with President Trump with the edge in Texas and Democrat.
or by the Boy Scouts.
Kaser, AM 1260 and AM HD stereo, KSUR Beverly Hills. Also in HD stereo at KKGO HD2 Los Angeles and streaming worldwide at
Talk about polishing a turd. This is gold plating a turd, chrome plating a turd. I got it aligned pretty good. I should go do the IF again.
2024 features interviews with dozens.
He's under center, he's on the field.
Eyes northbound side of the 405 at Sherman Way. Fender benders.
Chris Taylor, in his first two bats, he has homered, and now he's a single and a double away from a cycle. How about that?
Solo home run for Chris.
Might have a noisy transistor in it. Hear that noise?
Flying play the game.
Anything?
My God, I'm trying to see the funnel there, gentlemen. Who's taken?
A phone call last night from President Trump. One officer's still in the ICU. The other one is home recuperating.
Call toll free 855-3.
You can learn live pain-free without knee surgery.
El movimiento, un receptor de...
Someone asked me what happened with News 980. It was KFWB, and then it went to a Persian music thing, and now I think it's Hispanic, Spanish.
Here on reading.
625.
It's either this.
¿Nos podrías hablar, por favor, de los
Or
implantes?
this.
Claro que sí, Manny. Mira, en sí, los implantes es uno de mis
So-
tratamientos favoritos.
This is a power switch. This is the volume control. Sometimes you got to work with what you got. This is actually a pretty kick-ass little radio. It actually sounds clean. No noisy, but it's clean and sensitive.
Outrage in Kentucky after police officers are not charged in a black woman's killing.
Say her name.
The life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg honored.
Ruth is gone, and we grieve.
No gas cars in California by 2035.
We will eliminate the sales of internal combustion engines.
This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Matt Piper in New York. The streets of Louisville, Kentucky are filled with protesters after a grand jury decides not to indict any officers for the death of Breonna Taylor.
This is beyond ridiculous!
Say her name.
Y'all murdered Breonna Taylor!
Okay, this is the Zenith Royal 80, and I sure hope this one's not as hard to fix as the Philco was. It's kind of the same thing. It's kind of dead. It kind of motorboats. That motorboating was a bad, well, missing electrolytic on the... Let's start by seeing if the oscillator's running. We got our GE here. That's a good sign. The oscillator in here is interfering with the reception of this radio. I might put this on the scope and we'll look at the oscillator on the scope. Okay, this is what this sounds like. Feeding my phone into the center tap of the volume control. It just starts oscillating and looking at the inside, inspecting it with a different eye after the Philco. It looks like this core is broken, and it looks like these cores have been tweaked on a lot. Look at all the couplets in this radio. Also, I was looking at the schematic. This is a Royal 80, and this has got a lot of foreign-made parts in it, made in Japan. Yeah, this does not use the center-tapped batteries. This uses a center-tapped speaker, and I hope it's got the right speaker in it. I guess we'll see when we get it apart. Yeah, maybe we'll take a look at the oscillator on the scope. We'll feed audio into the volume control, but that's a little bit more promising when we have an oscillator that's running. Here's looking at the oscillator, and it seems very unstable. Look at that. Why is the speed changing? What? That's tapping on the radio. And when it speeds up like that, the tuning capacitor has no effect. See, the tuning capacitor... What's up with this thing? That's adjusting the tuning capacitor when it's working. Yeah, we need to have a look at this thing from the bottom. That's adjusting the oscillator coil. The slug that's broken. But now okay, that's if I touch the oscillator coil with the adjusting thingy. So that's turning the oscillator coil. It's got an intermittent here. Sometimes I hope what I'm doing is I'm tapping on this. If I can get both of them in the picture at the same time like that. I think that's right there. Really try and put some light on this because this camera's low light sensitivity really sucks. So we have another bodge job here. Look at this. And that's the final IF. I also see where it might be. It's going to be hard to point it out doing this, but right there. Let's see. Right here is the oscillator coil. This is the connection from the oscillator coil to the tuning capacitor. This is ground. This is the antenna, where the antenna connects to the tuning capacitor. There's two capacitors in the tuning capacitor, one for the antenna, one for the oscillator, ground. So I'm thinking that right here might be where the flaky connection is. It's causing it to go all over the place. Because when it goes all over the place, turning this has no effect on it. Say her name. And sure enough, when I heated this up with the soldering iron, I could see that it was just flopping around, and there was a break there in the trace. I got the whole pin came loose. I think I got it too hot. I hope I didn't hurt it. I'm gonna find out right now. Okay, well, it's the same thing. You can actually see it tuning in a radio station there. But yeah, there's something flaky here. The capacitor is not connecting to the oscillator. And it looks like the problem is inside the tuning capacitor, because you see if I touch it here, see the screwdriver, watch. See how it slows the oscillator down? If I touch it here. Same thing. So I have a feeling problems inside the tuning crap. I don't know if this is a dirty thing or if it's... because the more I turn it back and forth, the better it gets. Back on the Zenith Royal 80 botched set number 2. We know that the tuning capacitor is flaky, but there are points where it does work. We know that there's been some hackage here. I have several of these Chinese kit radios, and I don't know if this capacitor is the same, tuning capacitor is the same value as this. There are some different values of these, and since this uses the standard red oscillator can and this uses a mixer oscillator setup, it could be different. So what I want to do is I want to get the set up and running, the pocket radio playing, and then from there we can move on to tampering with that capacitor, I guess. Okay, let's go at this with the signal tracer. Let's go for cancer at your fingertips. Let's see, let's go for this. Let's go for this second. This is where all the hacking is done. So let's go for this one. Kind of like that. So where is T2 here? T2 is something new I like here. T2 is that one above the T2 is the white one. Of course, yellow, white, black. Let's see if we've got any activity here. Okay, where is the transformer? Right here. You set the camera down and try tuning the capacitor. Okay, there's legit nothing there, so let's go back to the first IF transformer. It would be very hard to hear anything here. The signal is going to be so low, and with the tuning capacitor not working, it's going to be tough. I'm not getting anything. This is going to be one tough radio to fix. This is looking like it's going to be as bad as the Philco crap. Maybe what I do with it is I go with it from the other direction and I start injecting 455 and working my way back. I'm going through and I'm ohming the coils out on these IF transformers because they look like they've all been ratcheted on, and if you turn these too far, you can break the windings in them. And this one is open, which is this one right here. It's interesting how they show you the values, like the capacitor. Then this one's 180 picofarads, this one's 100, this one's 115. Sometimes they show you that, sometimes, most of the time they don't. Yeah, this winding right here is open. And this is not the same at all. So, that's what I was afraid of. Can I make open? Wow. I'm trying to hold the camera still. What is that, 45 gauge wire? So this is the side that's open, and that wire looks okay. This wire, it's still too small, but this wire looks green where it's connected to the solder. I can't believe it. I might have actually been successful there. I got 6.6 ohms now. Come over here and I got 6.2 ohms. Okay. What I did is I bent it down and I soldered it to that line that goes to the capacitor. And yes, when I touched it, the wire just broke clean off. And I gotta say, this solder is about 5 times as thick as that wire that's on that transformer. That is microscopic wire. Okay, let's see if it behaves any different. I just got it soldered in there. I didn't even solder the can yet. Ooh, crackle pony. That would be music to somebody. Sounds awesome. New age and hi-fi. It's weird. It's like I can occasionally hear a station popping through almost. Lo-fi. Okay, let me play with this. I'm sure my tolerance for this is much higher than most viewers. We're getting the same thing as with the phone, which almost makes me think we got an open electrolytic here causing this. And I could probably tell you how much which one that would be. It would probably be this one right here. Because if that one was open, you'd get a big feedback loop, and it would just keep rototubulating and oscillate. You see that? Yeah, that 40 microfarad at 3 volt. Hey, an electrolytic from 1964, that's guaranteed to be good, right? This thing is awesome. Ding dong ling. Oh, better stop.
Major funding from Lyft and Uber technology.
Okay, so this was obviously a bathroom radio, because I can't even get the solder to break through on. It's so corroded, oxidized.
That's why we need Prop 22. California minus 100 block MLS number 2364.
Okay, I'm gonna try this in here, even though it's not, the shaft is not the same. Let's try it. Yeah, this thing looks downright corroded inside. And it looks like the center, of course, is ground. It looks like where the center rubs on the shaft is corroded. Is it possible to take this apart and clean it? I don't even know what size those bolts are. Like 1 millimeter, maybe? Half a millimeter? Very corroded. Lots of green, very corroded. Think of all the engineering that went into this. Those cuts in the plates, the spacing of those cuts to try and make the dial more even. Wow, what a lot of engineering went into this. I mean, something as simple as this is, you just can't take it for granted. I don't know. Of course, it totally fell apart because it's just old and the plastic's all brittle, and yeah. But yeah, you really gotta marvel at what it took to make these. I mean, now they just probably are cranked out of some machine in a dark factory. Well, not now, but when they were using these. But yeah, to do this and get this right, wow.
What we need to perform. Talking with some of the experts who we talked to, like Michael Schoenberger, Alex Epstein, some of the people who...
You know, when this radio was built in '64, Japanese products were considered inferior. And customers would probably not have bought this had they known, or they would have tried to stay away from this had they known that it was filled with Japanese parts that would corrode in 50 years and not work. And I look at the Chinese one that I took off this kit radio, and granted it's a kit radio, right? It's designed to be cheap for a kid to make and screw up and then throw away kind of thing, or not get to work at all. But I look at how far down the quality has gone from what people considered inferior in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Wow, have we fallen a long way accepting this stuff. Because this one, yeah, it works, but junk.
Shop in Louisville.
Say her name.
The charges against the 4 officers, or at least 3.
That's Dennis Prager. He likes to say her name.
Do you understand, in Minneapolis, do you understand that the U.S.
I think it's way off. Yeah, it's way off.
Have stopped us from celebrating recovery. So for the first time, the Olympics is going virtual. Just search AM570 LA Sports YouTube channel and enjoy celebrity recovery stories, agency performances, and much more.
It's not. It's.
For someone you don't need help. Call the service helpline at 8.
See all of this area here. It's way off.
Upside down. Let's talk about it. The storytelling.
Not all customers will qualify. Down payment varies with credit. See dealer for details.
$18.99 for a 3-plan review.
There you go. So this is a 6-hour peak, very long. 5 to 9 millimeter, and I'm trained to use it.
A day after the video went up, Hoag Hospital put out a statement saying Bark's radical views on COVID, masking, and hydroxychloroquine are diametrically opposite from the hospital's. It also points out the doctor is not an employee and doesn't have admitting privileges. Karen Adams, KNX 1070 News Radio. This year's wildfire season is already the worst.
Let me see if I can tweak this.
75% of the voters in the state say the fires do pose the greater danger than ever before. The poll
Okay, this was all the way closed. I opened it all the way, meaning reduced it, which made it better. And now I think I can adjust to this. I can achieve a peak on the antenna trimmer, so that's good. That means I'm in the range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recap this. And then after I recap it, I need to figure out something with this shaft, because the shaft on the old one was much longer.
Can it be I didn't notice?
Get your Rush Limbaugh on. With new capacitors. So look at this one.
I don't know. It sounds to me like systemic. Sounds
good. The antenna trimmer works. And these blue wires are the production test leads that you see there on the center tap speaker. Pretty close. Pretty close. Here's your sound comparison. Okay, what did we have wrong with this? Open first IF can coil, bad electrolytics, and bad tuning capacitor. And here's what's left of the tuning capacitor right here.
Check in every morning at noon before you end your day to stay on. Pay attention.
We're timing.
Well, I guess is that the important and analysis develop problem solvers able to make better decisions based on stats. Earn your master's, you get applied.
That's 570, so that's probably about right.
Experienced and caring.
And it took me a bunch of time to find the hardware to match that extended shaft on the old airplane.
Download the podcasts daily on all your favorite. Your thought it. 0.375 with a 2.396% APR.
간에서 걸러.
Batteries might be a bit low. The capacitor's off a little bit at the top end. This sounds like the voice coil is rubbing, which is no surprise with the damp environment it was apparently in.
We approach the bottom of the hour. Riverside police say that homeowners are being hassled by unemployment scammers, and new jobless claims are still at elevated levels here.
And
as the economy continues to
it can't be easily replaced because it's that double center tapped. I just connected these headphones across the two blue test leads and it sounds crystal clear, so it's definitely the speakers rubbing.
Officers will remain on the streets today because of what they encountered last night. We made 127 arrests in various locations.
Say her name.
Downtown.
Say her name.
Related.